Hola chicos, hoy es lunes el 3 de mayo de 2021. Solo tenemos 4 semanas más, chicos. Podemos hacerlo. Vámonos, ¿sí? Hoy tenemos para empezar, por favor, warm up by practicing your regular AR conjugations or reviewing our Quizlet. We're going to have our upcoming writing quiz on Friday. Remember, that is an open book and open note. So if you're taking notes during these videos, feel free to use those. You can use your book as well. That's going to be on Friday, as I said. Today you're watching La Lección del Día. Muy bien, estás aquí. Your tarea is called cargarsar. I'll give you the code for that at the end of the lesson. I hope I remember. Okay, vamos a ver. So, chicos, today we're going to learn a little bit about pronunciation. Not going to lie, my virtual students, your pronunciation is a little rough. So let's work on it today. Let's work on it today. If I have a C in front of an E or an I, the C sounds like an S. For example, if I give you the word bicicleta, notice how this C here sounds like an S, BC, but this C sounds like a K, cleta, bicicleta, yeah? So that's a good example. Or let's think of the word, oh, this is one that I heard a lot of people mispronouncing. Cocina. Since it's in front of an O, it has the K sound, co. But when it's in front of an I, it sounds like an S. Cina. Cocina. Cocina. I've heard a lot of you guys pronounce it coquina. Cocina, see? And I don't blame you guys. I mean, it's so hard to be a virtual student and learn pronunciation. So anyway, just remember, the C's change depending on what letter they're in front of. Now, another thing that changes depending on what letter it's in front of is our G. If our G is in front of a same thing, an E or an I, it sounds like an H. Sounds like H. For example, if I give you the word, let's give you the name. How do you think I would say this name? It's not Geraldo, it's Geraldo. Geraldo. What about if I give you the word, this is a good example because I have two G's. Here my G is in front of an I, so I say he. Here my G is in front of an A, so I make the G sound. Ga, gigante. All right. Now if I see a G-U-E, that sounds like gay. So if I say, for example, we're going to be learning about this a little bit today. This is the past tense of pagar. For the yo form, it's pronounced pagay. Okay? So before we go into our lesson, now I promise you this does tie into our lesson, okay? So let's look at our trabalenguas. This one's not so much of a trabalengua, a tongue twister, but go ahead and try to say this at home. Try to pronounce these words. Hopefully you're actually doing it. See? All right. So hopefully it sounded something like, and I'm gonna change his name, Geraldo, el chico de Argentina. Again, this sounds like an H. We don't say Argentina like we would in English. We say Argentina. Geraldo, el chico de Argentina, es muy inteligente. Again, G is in front of an E. Es muy inteligente, pero no sabe usar la cámara digital. We don't say digital, we say digital. All right? Gerardo, el chico de Argentina, es muy inteligente, pero no sabe usar la cámara digital. Now you might hear when I say my G is a little bit of a sound, like a little throat sound. That depends on the dialect of where you speak Spanish. So some people really have a sound like Geraldo, el chico de Argentina. Some people don't, okay? So don't worry about trying to make that throat sound when you say your words. What about this one? Go ahead and take a second at home and try to say this trabalengua. All right, so notice how my G's are in front of an A, a U, an A, an I, and an A. So the only one that's going to sound like sound, an H sound, is this one. So, Pepe el gato usa los guantes y usa las gafas de su amigo el gigante. Gigante. Gato, guantes, gafas, gigante. All right, one more. Try to say this one at home. All right. Remember, your G's in front of an E or an I sound like an H sound. So, de generación en generación, las generaciones se degeneran con mayor degeneración. De generación en generación, las generaciones se degeneran con mayor degeneración. All right, bien. So keep all these things that we just learned in mind as I talk to you about the lesson. So far, we've been learning how to conjugate in the past tense of our regular AR verbs. So we have asteo, amos, astes, and aron, right? Nare, nadaste, nado, nadamos, nadastes, and nadaron. However, there are some words that we have to change a little bit as an AR conjugation in the preterite tense. So our English grammar connection, the spelling of some verbs in English change when the past tense ed is added. For example, admit to admitted, we added an extra t. Stop to stopped, we add an extra p. Picnic to picnicked, we added a k, ed. Spanish also has some verbs like that, especially in the AR. Today, we're talking about car, gar, and zar. So these aren't necessarily irregulars, they're just different from the rest. They're their own special category. But they're really easy to remember because you just look what ends in a car, gar, and zar. And there's a reason behind why we change them, which we'll learn in a second. So there's a spelling change in the preterite of regular verbs that end in car, gar, zar. How do you write the form of the verb that change in spelling? Here's how. Regular verbs that end in car, gar, zar have spelling change in the yo form of the preterite. So just like many things we've learned in the present tense, the only thing that's changing is the yo form. This change allows the words, and this is a key, of why, to maintain their original sound. Right? So just like we were learning about the C, how in front of an E and I it sounds like an S, in front of everything else it sounds like a K, we got to keep that in mind. So if I say buscar, if I'm going to conjugate it in the yo form regularly, I would just say busce. But then my C would change and sound like an S instead of a K originally. So I'd say busce. But we don't want to say busce. We want to keep the original sound of my infinitive buscar. So I'm going to change the C to a QU and keep the same ending of an accented E. Now this sounds like busque, has that K sound. So buscar, yo busqué. See how that maintains the original sound better than buscar to busce? Same thing with GAR. Here, since the G is in front of an A, we have the G sound, jugar, jugar. If we conjugated it regularly in an AR preterite ending, it would be JUG with an accented E, and we would change the G to an H sound. However, we don't want to change the G to an H sound. We want to keep the G sound. So we're going to add a U here, Jugué, jugué. Jugar comes to jugué. Now, last one, the zar verbs. Almorzar, the Z is simply going to become a C. Almorzar becomes almorcé. Now, this change kind of reminds me of when I'm making my singular nouns that end with a Z plural, and I change the Z to a C, like lapis with a Z to lapises with a C, if you remember reviewing that a few weeks ago when we were getting ready for the NSC. So there we go. We have a cargarzar. For example, busqué el bloqueador de sol. Él buscó las toallas. So notice how, even though cargarzar is a little bit different in the yo form, all of their other forms are the same. Like here, I'm matching the O ending with L, and that's a regular preterite ending. Jugué al béisbol, ellos jugaron el fútbol. Again, just keeping the stem the same for everything except for the yo form. Almorcé a la una, ¿a qué hora almorzaste tú? Just in case this isn't quite clear, let me make a Google Doc for us. Insert. Okay, so the yo, let's say I'm conjugating almorzar. Now my stem is just almorz, right? So I'm adding that here to all of my verbs. And my regular endings would be aste, o, amos, astes, and ara. The only thing that's going to change is my yo form. Yo almorcé, C to E. Same thing with anything else that I do. If I'm using jugar, this is my stem. Take off the AR. And I have my A, aste, o, amos, astes, ara. The only thing I'm changing again is my yo form. Yo jugué. All right? Hopefully that's clear to you guys. Your code for your assignment is going to be just the form yo. Because hopefully that helps us remember the only irregular form in these, or I shouldn't say irregular, the only stem change or ending change for these is going to be in the yo form. All of the rest are going to match our other AR conjugations that we learned, which hopefully you took notes, but if not, that's only back a few pages on page 331. All right? Bien. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Like normal, I'm giving you multiple attempts, 2 attempts on your homework. One of them is going to be, the first one's not going to show you the answers, the second one will. Okay? Adios, chicos, y hasta mañana.